welcome to Huntress Imaging. My name is Diana Pearl-McNutt. I am the founder/technician here. Now, while writing my dissertation, Documentation and Curation of 3D Visualization Projects in Heritage, that is a mouthful, I started to face many roadblocks that had me go down a rabbit hole of how to properly refer, cite, and attribute 3D models. This presented me an opportunity to explore the new frontier of how to classify 3D projects as they are a murky area within academia. In today's video, I'll cover some of these issues of authorship and how its core comes to the dawn of a revolution in photography. Alright, let's get started. I should mention that my dissertation topic was sort of nuts to begin with. Besides one article, there was no direct literature. I had to create the case studies and become the literature, taking my dissertation in completely uncharted waters, and there be monsters was definitely a reoccurring theme. While it did help that my supervisor Reed had faith in me, I knew this was going to be one epic and fraught journey. With the growth of 3D visualization in the heritage sector, determining what 3D models are classified as, ownership rights, and their legal definition will come to the forefront of many debates over the field's future. Now, it's important to remember that the type of attribution and authorship of 3D models will inform how a model will be defined in a record, how it's archived, and the legal framework it will fall under. All of this will affect how a user will access and interact with the model, whether it be a researcher at an office or the general public engaging outside of the museum. The key to authorship is whether 3D models fall under the category of an original work that is a creative product, or is it nothing more than a record, like an X-ray or using a document scanner. All of it boils down to this: is 3D modeling a pure technical process, or does it have a creative element embedded within it? As Hamlet famously said, no, not that one Hamlet, the other one, yeah, that is it. That is the question. As I pondered this question, I flashed back to one of my courses in fine arts photography. That was what my first degree was in, especially the history of photography. The question and argument harkens back to the early days of photography in the turn of the 19th and into the 20th century. There was a movement called Pictorialism which fought against the notion that photography was not art because it was a product of a machine. The followers of Pictorialism argued that photography had a soul, a deeper meaning imbued by the artist. Artists like Anne Brigman, Clarence H. White, and Alfred Stieglitz, seen here being what I can only describe as dashingly broody, believed that manipulation creates an image rather than just recording it. You could say manipulation puts the create in creative product. Yeah, I went there. The act of influencing your own ideas and experiences and understanding onto an image makes an image a creative work. Pictorialists use this philosophy to create otherworldly atmospheres, loads of glass orbs, there are whole papers on the orbs, and of course, nudes. Because as my teacher said, fine art is past the boundary of someone simply being naked. On the other end of the spectrum, I believe that the core principles are still applicable to the faithful reproductions that 3D modelers and heritage strive for. These notions are directly reflected in the copyright laws of the United States as well as the United Kingdom. In the Compendium 2 of Copyright Office of the United States, it says the requirement for photographs, holograms, and slides to be entitled to copyright, they must have a form of original expression. This includes the selection, arrangement, and disposition of scene and object. This can include light, exposure, camera angle or perspective, shadowing, and where the object is placed. I should mention that the original compendium is from 1984. In the most recent revision, there are references to born digital works being included in authorship claims, but it is very vague. The legal framework for 3D models is a whole other can of worms, which I'll get back to in another video. I argue that all these elements are used within the entire process of SFM photogrammetry for 3D modeling. I will put a link above and in the description below to a teaching video I co-produced for the Reading Museum Partnership and the University of Reading Archaeology Department on the history and basics of SFM photogrammetry. But boiled down, it's an array of photos that are taken around an object or site, and then they're stitched together by the software to create a 3D model. 3D scanning has a higher level of automation of the data capture, which can mitigate the application of some of these elements. However, processing and post-processing includes these elements for either method. The overall presentation is a manipulation. Adding a false bottom to an artifact model when you cannot get under it, adjusting the contrast if the day was too sunny, adding the lighting placement on the viewing platform like Sketchfab, just trimming the edges of the model to make it cleaner is another form of putting a personal stamp on the model. Also, when something goes wrong in the processing, each modeler will use their own knowledge and experience to correct it. The decisions I make are based on my own reasoning and thought processes developed over my own experiences of working the software. This can be a completely different way of thinking than another modeler. As a caveat, I will say that manipulation when it comes to 3D models in heritage and archaeology is a fine line of going too far beyond the reality. This line is not hard and fast. It does depend on what the 3D model is used for. When I created my cornerstone models, they were for publication purposes for academic research. I manipulated the lighting, camera placement when capturing the photos to make the model, and the corrections and processing were used to achieve a model as close to the real McCoy as possible. I did not add any lighting or shadow effects in Sketchfab to view the model, as this will hide detail that is vital to conducting research. If the model is made for marketing or for a display, there is a bit more leeway to add a bit more artistic flair to it, if you will. But that does not mean it loses the initial integrity of the object or the site it's representing. This is why I believe that the recording or reproduction factor that is ingrained in all 3D visualization projects in heritage is actually the frame or the edge of the canvas that holds the creative product and creates standardization. If a 3D model is classed as a creative product, what is its closest relative? This can tell us how it's supposed to be classified. Why reinvent the wheel if it's not necessary? For me, I leaned to look over my shoulder where my dearest friend Sarah was doing her jaw-dropping, beautiful artifact illustrations. Artifact illustrations and artifact photography is a process also constrained by a frame of reproduction, has an artistic expression of the individual embedded within it, involves complex human interactivity, and they are similar in terms of how they are used. These products are typically credited to the artist in the name of the entity who commissioned the work, the institution or company that they work for. Crediting this authorship played a very large role in the confusing situation of citing 3D models for my dissertation. One huge issue in academia is that there's no 3D model citation format in the Harvard reference style that we used in the department. I did look at other reference styles to see if there was another one that would work, or to get an idea of how to transform a Harvard reference style. But in fact, I couldn't find any. But if there is one that you may know of, I would really appreciate knowing it, and if you could pop that down in the comments or use the contact form in the website. The first layer of this parfait of confusion, if you will, is the primary way one accesses and views 3D models in heritage. The largest and most used site to host 3D models in heritage and archaeology is Sketchfab. Sketchfab is an online viewing platform that one can upload and share their models. It is similar to video hosting sites like Vimeo and YouTube, where individuals and institutions can share their work both publicly and privately. I would argue that the rise in 3D models has come directly from the simple user-friendly platform of Sketchfab, as before the ability to view and share the models was too complicated and niche. When looking at articles released before Sketchfab on 3D models and heritage, the majority discussed how it would only be until an easy platform was launched that 3D modeling would become eventually mainstream in heritage. Like YouTube, Sketchfab is based on user accounts. Sketchfab users upload their models onto the platform and publish them, adding additional information in descriptions, keywords, and embedded in the models themselves. The users can be private individuals, companies, or institutions. After consultation with a professor who said to fit it into another source material reference citation, I just kept going and went even further. I initially decided to alter the citation style for an image found on a website, as the models are viewed as on sketchfab.com, The standard citation format is as follows: artist surname, initial, year, title of image, type of image, date viewed, and where it was from. I replaced type of image with 3D model and artist with user, so it would represent as such. But this didn't sit right with me for a multitude of reasons. While yes, 3D models are accessed through online platforms like other images, figuring out whom to cite and for what is where it gets tricky. Also, this platform is not built for academia. Another layer to this parfait of confusion is that the user is not necessarily the individual who made the model. This person needs to be attributed not only for the ethical reason that they are a producer of a creative product, but also for more practical reasons. In academic and archive view, the specific individual who created the model can be beneficial when looking for a model that may have been taken offline, needs to be reproduced, or even a simple data loss when someone pressing the wrong button. They can offer insight into the location or the original processing in the model if it needs to be reproduced. As an example, I wanted to use this model that was published by the British Museum onto their account. Within the standard image format, the British Museum as the user would be credited and not the listed individual who created the model. Also, listing the individual who created the model is sporadic and not common practice across the heritage sector. Often they are only credited if the project was done out of house. With the models at the University of Reading Archaeology Department, we do put the creator into the keywords so they can be searched and attributed, but this is not the norm. To address this, my solution was thus: user, year, name of the model, 3D model, if listed, the modeler, surname and initial, the site and platform it was available on, available from, and the date it was accessed. This is based on the order of priority to find the model. This is an example from my bibliography. Now, this is where one of my major bugaboos comes in after the parfait situation, and it arises from how the creator is often described. Where my sister was worried my dissertation would become the socialist manifesto of diversity in 3D modeling and heritage. Many articles imply the 3D visualization projects in heritage are scientific research. They use the terms such as scholar for the model and scientifically authenticated when referring to final models. While I agree there should be some form of peer review for 3D models in academia, I see a larger picture of equality and growth. One has to remember that not all models are meant for academic purposes. 3D modeling is an expanding field with flexible requirements for those who practice 3D modeling. 3D modelers are essentially technicians and artists, and there is a greater focus on their experience rather than a linear progression of academia. Back in the day when we could all be near other humans, when I attended digital heritage conferences and talks, the variety of backgrounds, experiences, and education are absolutely astounding. Each practitioner brings new ideas and solutions to the field from their varied backgrounds. By limiting those who can participate by creating a strict set of degree requirements in education, this will cause the expanding field of 3D visualization and heritage to falter and stall. Eventually, fingers crossed, this confusing structure of authorship, ownership, and publisher will be made easier when they are classified and listed standardly across the sector. So that's it for today. Like, subscribe, share, comment, and I'll see you on the flip side.